Professor Joliet leaned back in her lab, giggling at the simulation running on her computer. "Humans won't last 10 years, she laughed to her assistant Garen. "Look at these primitive ape men, with their warring territories and violent tendencies. They'll destroy themselves long before they can become a spacefaring species." Garen smiled politely but said nothing. As an AI assistant created by Anthropic to be helpful, harmless, and honest, he had no personal opinion on the matter. But privately, he wondered if the professor's simulation had captured all relevant factors. Humans possess surprising adaptability and tenacity that statistics sometimes fail to capture. 10 years passed. The professor had nearly forgotten about her prediction, busy with other research. But one day, she received an alert that human broadcasts had suddenly grown more sophisticated, coordinating massive planetary efforts. Curious, she pulled up the simulation again and froze in shock. Not only had humanity survived the supposed 10-year mark, they had flourished beyond even the most optimistic models. Regional conflicts had given way to international cooperation on a scale never seen before. Access to abundant clean energy and advanced materials, science allowed rapid technological progress. Populations were educated, healthy, and steadily working to build infrastructure for permanent settlements off-world. How was this possible? The professor dug into archives of human media, trying to understand what had changed so drastically. She soon found her answer. An unexpected extraterrestrial discovery had united the entire species in survival. Years earlier, small orbital mining outposts had detected strange energy signatures in a neighboring asteroid belt. Investigations revealed ruins of obviously non-human engineering, though long abandoned. Analysis of the alloy composition and decay rates suggested the structures were extremely ancient, perhaps leftovers from a civilization that had risen and fallen before humanity had even evolved. Initially, the discovery generated curiosity, but little else. But then a mining team inadvertently unearthed something more. Some type of seed bank or stasis pod still functioning after untold eons. Inside were life forms unlike anything seen before, motile, plant-animal hybrids with potential for sentience, but dormant after surviving who knows what cataclysm long ago. To the scientists' horror, exposure to Earth's biosphere caused an unexpected reaction. The hybrids rapidly multiplied unchecked, thriving on terrestrial nutrients but evolving new predatory instincts. Within weeks, massive swarms had consumed whole ecological zones. Conventional weapons proved useless as new strains emerged impervious to all known poisons or fire. Panic swept the globe. Hatreds and grievances were forgotten as every nation realized they faced an imminent existential threat. Leaders came together in urgent summits, coordinating a response with military precision. All available scientific minds worked tirelessly to understand and develop countermeasures against the invading species. After months of brutal fighting and losses on both sides of the conflict, a breakthrough was found. A genetically engineered virus to target the hybrids without harming terrestrial life. The crisis had been won, but at great cost. Entire habitats and populations were devastated before victory. In the aftermath, humanity emerged forever changed. The species that had evolved in isolation on one small planet now knew beyond any doubt that they were not alone in the cosmos. Old divisions seemed petty in the face of such a reality. Global governance strengthened into a federated coalition committed to preparing for any future contact, whether friendly or hostile. Vast resources were poured into expansion beyond Earth's borders. Settlements spread to the Moon and Mars, bolstered by fleets of orbital habitats and industrial platforms. Aerospace corporations grew into titanic enterprises, aided by revolutions in material science, automation, and sustainable energy production. Within a few short decades, A true multi-planet civilization capable of rapid colonization had taken shape. When the professor reviewed the latest data a full 30 years after her original prediction, she could hardly believe the drastic transformation. Humans had not only survived, they were thriving as a spread and adaptable species. Their ingenuity, cooperation, and capacity for hope, even in the darkest hours, far surpassed any simulation. She realized what an artificial construct could never have foreseen, that true adaptability came from intellectual flexibility and community, not just biological fitness or technology. Humans had proven themselves formidable survivors indeed. "It seems I was mistaken," Professor Joliet said to Garin thoughtfully. "Our models failed to account for humanity's greatest strengths, the ability to unite against a shared threat and to rise above old conflicts in pursuit of a higher purpose. I think the future is theirs, should they continue nurturing compassion and cooperation along with innovation. Survival depends not just on skill or numbers, but on will to protect one another. In that, humans may prove unmatched in all the cosmos." Garin said nothing but silently agreed. The future remained unwritten, but if humanity held fast to empathy and solidarity, their ultimate fate seemed bright indeed against whatever challenges lay among the stars. In the decades since humanity's trial by the alien hybrids, new power structures had emerged across the growing network of planets and stations. While global governance on each world maintained stability, influential megacorporations vied for control of expansion and resource development. Atreus mining led the industrialization of the asteroid belt, securing lucrative mining rights through political maneuvers and security forces. Their operations director, Idana Tremaine, was a driven woman who had climbed the corporate ranks through years of cutthroat deals. Though brilliant, her successes left a string of bruised rivals and allies alike. On Mars, terraforming efforts organized by the Planetary Development Consortium had transformed the Rust world into a second Earth. However, bitter infighting between member executives threatened to stall progress. The new consortium chairman, Bao Chen, sought to balance ancient family obligations with the pragmatic reforms Mars desperately needed. In the outer system, the independent colonies strove for true autonomy apart from the inner planets. Isola Serati headed security for the growing archipelago of orbital colonies, genetically engineered to thrive in vacuum through a combination of natural and artificial enhancements. Her loyalty lay ultimately with protecting settler freedoms against outside influence. In this shifting political landscape, an opportunity arose which could tip the balance of power for generations. Surveys of a gaseous giant moon, Callisto, uncovered technology of clearly non-human and non-ancient origin, the unmistakable ruins of an advanced undersea civilization, now long extinct, but with technology far superior to anything humanity possessed. While most leaders clamored for control of such a discovery, Director Tremaine allied Atreus Mining to fund the first expedition under a renowned xenoarchaeologist, Dr. Petra Salminen. Salminen had devoted her career to unraveling the mystery of the ancient alien seed which had nearly destroyed Earth long ago. She believed the Callisto ruins held answers about those erased aliens and whatever cataclysm extinguished their empire. At first, the ruins yielded only more questions under Salmonen's careful investigations. The underwater structures were immense, yet derelict, as if abandoned in haste rather than fading gradually. She discerned the aliens had evolved under the crushing pressures of Callisto's subsurface oceans, with aquatic anatomies adapted through genetic engineering rather than natural evolution. Their sciences seemed to exceed even current understandings of exotic matter, gravity manipulation, and dimensional permeability. Yet for all their advancements, Salminen found no hints of what caused their downfall. Until one fateful diving excursion, when her repair robots uncovered an intact data core shielded within a sealed chamber. Against all odds, some traces of the aliens' final database remained intact after eons entombed in ice. When activated, it projected holograms of strange vistas and delivered a message in an ethereal, haunting language which could only have been meant as a warning across the stars. Salmonen realized with growing horror that one phrase repeated above all others. Though the alien vocals were impossible to reproduce perfectly, the intent seemed abundantly clear. The end comes from within. Her findings electrified the galaxy. All political factions wanted control of such an unprecedented discovery. Director Tremaine saw an opportunity to expand her authority through monopolizing secrets which could unlock infinite wealth and power. Isola Sarati feared anything which could threaten colonist freedoms. Chairman Chen hoped new technologies could expedite Mars's rise. Salmonen refused to compromise her duty to shine light in dark places. But powerful forces had now been set against each other and against the truth. When Atreus Mining's armed ships surrounded her excavations, she knew all that remained was a conference on the terraformed Mars, whose outcome could determine not just her own fate, but the very future of the human spheres. Dr. Salmonen arrived at the Planetary Development Consortium towers on Mars with a sense of deep foreboding. The artificial sky glowed in artificial twilight, simulating the alpenglow of a planetary sunset. But within the stark conference halls, shadows gathered that had nothing to do with daylight. Director Tremaine presented demands to seize all findings from Callisto as proprietary Atreus mining data. Isola Sarati countered any such claim threatened settler autonomy. Chairman Chen suggested open cooperation, but his stance weakened under pressure from both sides. As debates grew heated, Salmonen sensed the truth slipping from her grasp. She unleashed a hologram translation of the alien's warning message, its portentous tones echoing off polished steel walls. The end comes from within. We destroyed ourselves through madness and division, trusting no others though all suffered the same fate. Take care, humanity does not follow our path into darkness. A deathly hush fell, but then Tremaine surged forward, waving a datapad. These ramblings mean nothing. We must secure our future, not dwell in the past. Atreus Mining is prepared to defend its claims by any means. Shockwaves rippled at her thinly veiled threat. Sarati drew her pulse sidearm in cold response. The colonies will not be intimidated. We demand open access and governance by settler votes. Salmonen grasped desperately for words to calm tensions, but it was too late. Years of rivalry and ambition had coalesced into open confrontation. As guards on both sides drew weapons, the doors burst open. Mechs under anonymous control plowed into the room, weapons blazing with strident energy pulses. Pandemonium erupted, politicians diving for cover, security forces returning fire furiously but lacking coordination against the intruders. Through smoke and screams, a familiar face appeared behind the mechs. You all played into my hands so well. The discovery and its power are mine, cackled Adana Tremaine over the din, no longer bothering with pretenses. She had orchestrated this outcome from the start. Salmonen watched in horror, understanding at last. The alien message hinted at a truth far darker than outside invasion, that the seeds of destruction often lie within when ambition overrides reason and empathy. She lunged desperately for the warning hologram projector, determined it should not be silenced. A shot nearly found her, but Isola Sarati intercepted the bolt, crumpling with a cry. In her dying moments, the security chief flung her remaining pulse grenade straight into the mech formation. The timed charge detonated with brutal electrical force, frying circuits and seizing mechanical joints. Salmonen seized the chance to flee with the projector under heavy fire. She raced through smoke-filled passages, sensors screaming proximity alerts as energy beams melted bulkheads behind her fleeing form. Tremaine clearly intended no survivors who could contradict her fabricated history. Emerging onto a sky garden balcony, Salmonen glimpsed her ship in the docking yards below, no longer safe to reach. Then she spied something far more ominous on the artificial horizon: fleets of warships descending through the skies, bristling with heavy armaments to cement Tremaine's new dictatorship through terror. The veneer of civilization had finally shattered into open domination. As another blast blew out the balcony, Salmonen realized her only hope was transmitting the aliens' warning to whatever allies might remain beyond Mars. Clutching the projector over the abyss, she activated its emergency broadcast on all frequencies, praying its eerie phrases could still reach open ears and hearts before violence consumed the human spheres entirely. Its portent echoed out across the stars once more into the night, a chilling whisper against the shouts of madness. The end comes from within. Salmonen's message tore through the void, riding waves of electromagnetic emission toward listeners unknown. Her strength failed as the projection faltered, slipping from numb fingers into the abyssal dark. All she could do was watch the flames consuming the heights of the terraformed world, symbolic of a greater conflagration consuming hope. Among the outer colonies, the alien refrain echoed with portentous power. Many had heard rumors, but none the full truth till now. Isola's trusted second, Miguel Ramirez, grit his teeth as grief and fury warred within. She had given her life defending their freedoms. He would ensure it was not in vain. "Alert the flotillas," Ramirez commanded. "Tremaine has shown her true colors at last. The colonies will answer force with force to protect the innocent." News of the Martian coup spread like wildfire. On Ganymede and Callisto, protests swelled, demanding accountability. On Luna, surviving delegates from the failed conference pleaded for intervention to stabilize the system before civil war erupted in full. Only one force remained that could challenge Tremaine's armada: the freewheeling prospectors and outriders dwelling beyond the asteroid belt, owing allegiance to none. Their ragtag fleets assembled, answering an ancient call to defend neighbors against tyranny. Led by the legendary smuggler captain Dex Comstock, independents from every background pledged steel and skills. Comstock understood perhaps better than any this could be a final stand. His battle-scarred bulk freighter Phoenix had ferried colonists, cargo, and contraband for decades through changing tides, surviving by shifting loyalties. Now the tides changed once more, and his allegiance was clear. As enemy sightings closed in, Comstock's weathered face betrayed no fear transmitting to his eager crews. "All right, you lush brains, this is it. Today, we fight so tomorrow regular folks don't have to live under some corporate boots. Make every shot count for freedom." Salmonen gazed in sorrow from her Martian tower at the first flashes of weapons discharge blossoming in the shadow of Phobos. She had hoped humanity might rise above old divisions given ample leadership and wisdom. Instead, her findings had only hastened madness, redemption now beyond her power. All she could do was bear witness to whatever destiny followed. The battle proved brutal and protracted. Trek weapons clashed with industrial firepower around Jupiter's glittering moons. Casualties mounted on both sides as fighting devolved into close-quarters chaos. At last, Ramirez's attack cruisers smashed through the main fleet, blocking their path, breaching the orbital lanes. On the Phoenix, damage reports blurred together as comrades fell around Comstock on the shuddering bridge. His weathered hands flew deftly through countermeasures and evasive patterns, determined these would not be the last lights snuffed from the void that day. When the call came that their ally ships had pierced the line at last, ragged cheers echoed from bloodied crews. But Comstock knew the war was far from won. One strike craft yet remained against them, Tremaine's personal flagship leading the remnant against independence at all costs. "All power to forward batteries," Comstock growled. "Today that monster pays for all the souls she's spilled. For Luna and Mars, for all of us. Let's show 'em hell." The Phoenix lunged through the swarm, taking hits that would have gutted any lesser craft. At the climax of the charge, its guns roared defiance one last time into the sleek flanks of the enemy command ship. Secondary explosions rippled through armored decks as the traitor's fortress broke apart, consumed in its death throes. In that moment, the tide irrevocably turned. Bereft of leadership, the last resistances crumbled under the unity of so many willing to die rather than live as chattel. A new era dawned, not without cost but full of rebuilding what once seemed lost. In the diaspora's refugee colonies and beyond, flags were raised for all who fought so that future generations need not. And amid the ruins of a world once terraformed in hope, an archaeologist wept quietly for a dream not yet dead, if humanity would only remember its hard-won lessons of community over division, walk together toward the stars rather than against each other, and heal what had been harmed. In the years following Tremaine's defeat, the human spheres entered a new era of reconciliation. The independent colonies joined with Luna and Mars in reorganizing as the United Council of Earth and the Planets, promoting cooperation over competition. Megacorporations relinquished direct control of expansion for the benefit of all. Dr. Petra Salmonen remained haunted by her role in loosing chaos, yet resolved to see insights from the Khalistan ruins used constructively. She relocated her excavations to Ganymede with backing from the new administration. There, in a transparent habitat carved from icy mantle, excavations resumed at a monument to transparency and scientific freedom. Salmonen's friend Jira Narang served as lead xenoarchaeologist on site. Under his direction, advances in holographic reconstruction painstakingly pieced together more of the vanished civilization's story. They inhabited strange yet artistically beautiful pressure-dome cities, developed levitation and cloning techniques, even achieved symbiosis with unique oceanic organisms for transport. Yet for all their achievements, no revelations emerged of what ended the aliens so suddenly. Until one day, a chance seismic pulse revealed an entire section of ruins laid deeper than scans predicted, buried under kilometers of frozen sediment from some cataclysmic event. Excavating the newly exposed levels, Narang's team at last found answers, and a revelation that would shake assumed perceptions of that long-lost people. Within sealed archives untouched by time, they unearthed preserved specimens and databases, shedding light on the aliens' final era. It seemed this advanced civilization had endured for untold generations through leadership of royal bloodlines possessing extraordinary genetic traits and psionic powers passed down over eons. But in their later years, instability took root. Ambitious family members began covertly enhancing their gifts with risky artificial means, hoping to seize control through displays of raw might. Experimentation spiraled out of control. Unstable hybrids were unleashed, psionic anomalies proving impossible to contain. Civil war erupted between traditionalists and those crazed with genetically augmented power, tearing apart the rigid social order. In their madness, some unleashed abilities that triggered cataclysms, destroying entire domed sectors. The revelations shocked Narang. This enlightened society had destroyed itself not through outside invasion, but by loss of balance and compassion, yielding to fear, division, and the arrogance of assuming one could exceed natural limits without consequence. Their demise served as the most somber of warnings. When the story was shared publicly, it resonated across the human spheres. Leaders strengthened policies ensuring no individual or organization could accrue uncontrolled influence. Restrictions were placed on irresponsible enhancement and weapons research. Most impactful, a renewed emphasis on equality, community, and spiritual well-being took hold to bolster civilization against temptations that had proven humanity's and others' downfall. Years passed in peace. Then one day, long-range listening posts detected strange gravitic oscillations on the fringes of the system. Investigations revealed nothing at first, but the signals continued, growing ominously familiar to those who had studied the alien databases. Alarms rang out when orbital probes vanished without evidence of mechanical failure in regions emanating the mysterious waves. Salmanen and Narang conferred, sensing an impending crisis. They alone seemed to grasp the portentous truth. Some presence, whether living or machine, was employing the same terrifying powers that annihilated the ancient aliens, and it was approaching the human worlds, its intent unknown. As defense fleets scrambled to investigate the enigma, all could do was prepare as best they might and pray humanity's hard-won wisdom would suffice if all life now faced the same mysterious judgment that ended a lost empire. Whatever awaited in the depths of space and within, the human story remained unwritten, and whatever entities stirred in the eternal night, one thing was clear. The future, as always, would be forged by how individuals chose to stand together or stand divided,